What is happening, my friends? Welcome to another great episode of the Arrington Gavin Show, your go-to spot for sharp insights, bold opinions, and unfiltered takes on the biggest stories of the day, whether it's politics, sports, pop culture, or the latest buzz. Look, as always, we're diving deep and keeping it real. So do me a favor, kick back, stay informed, and get ready to join the conversation. Family and friends, look, I'm so excited because today I have the honor of having Chesapeake City Councilwoman Debbie Ritter. She has been in office for she started off actually in '98, and she has been a warrior here in the city of Chesapeake, my home city. Since then, and she is what I tell you. I had a great conversation with her before we talked about having her on, and she's a very sweet soul, and she's a firecracker, right? She's passionate about the city, and one thing I always want to inform you all, the listeners here, listeners and viewers, is the importance of your local government. What happens in your, what's going on in your backyard, because we always are watching, I guess, mainstream news as far as on the federal level, and you forget that, hey, look, you still have to know your school board, your local council, your mayor, your everybody, all the committees. You have to be involved and know what's going on in your home turf. As a business owner, it happened to me at a later age, because as a young kid, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I know we have a mayor, that's it, right? Oh, there's a council and this and that. So the older I got, I start to have more knowledge, I guess, when I was in college. And then from there, I'm just glued to all the positions, and I've been fortunate to be friends with people from all sides of the aisle, and that's how we should all be. We, regardless of opinions and values. Look, at the end of the day, we all want to see the same outcome. We just have a different journey of how to get there. That's how I always tell folks. So I tell my friends on the left, I tell my friends on the right, and then there's me in the middle saying, "Oh gosh, geez, can we all just order this beer already? I'm thirsty." So, we're gonna have a great conversation with Councilwoman Ritter, and again, I'm so honored and excited to have her on, taking the time out of her busy schedule to be on the program. As always, to you all, the listeners, the viewers out there, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule as well to just take 1 hour of your time to tune into the Arrington Gavin Show. We are growing each and every day in listenerships, viewerships, and subscribers. We started off very grassroots. We're still very grassrooted, but we're growing each and every step of the way. As you know, there's multiple ways you can tune into the program. We air 5 days a week, Monday through Fridays, wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's iHeartRadio, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple, you name it. You can listen to us, as well as on the streaming platforms of YouTube and Rumble. All you have to do is just type in the Arrington Gavin Show, and you can catch some past shows, and you can watch us on demand from there. And you can also check reruns of our program on our radio affiliate out in the metro Atlanta area, WDJY 99.1 FM Straight Talk. That's right. Monday through Fridays at 11 p.m. You can tune into the show if you happen to be in that metro Atlanta area, or online to wdjyfm.com. Let's see, what else am I forgetting? Am I forgetting anything else? I think that is it. Well, look, as always, I do have to acknowledge some of our proud supporters of the Arrington Gavin Show, like our friends over at Rugged Evolution Beard Care. That's right, fellas. Your beard is more than just hair. It's a statement. Keep it bold, healthy, and rugged with Rugged Evolution Beard Care. Their their all natural products are designed for every beard, from stubble to full-on lumberjack, whether it's their nourishing oils, hydrating balms, or invigorating washes. Rugged Evolution is the key to a beard that commands respect. So, because a rugged man obviously deserves a rugged beard, shop now to ruggedevo.com. That's RUGGEDEVO.com. Look, I use it myself. I've had my facial hair. I don't know. I think the last time I had a baby face was my high school graduation. Yeah, so I've always had a full beard since then. I always tell folks my wife's never seen me without facial hair. So obviously this is a part of my life, and I have to make sure I take care of it with a great product. And that great product is Rugged Evolution Beard Care. All right. Rugged Evolution Beard Care. They're available in Walmart, online, Amazon, Etsy, as well as on their online store, ruggedevo.com. So we want to thank them for being a proud supporter of the Arrington Gavin Show. Let's see here. We're gonna take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll have some more of the program. I'm gonna start off with our fun fact of the day. You know, it's a tradition here on the program we like to do, and then I'm gonna be honored to welcome our special guest. So don't go anywhere, my friends. You are tuning in to the Arrington Gavin Show. So stay with us. Do not change that dial. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Become a man of distinction with Rugged Evolution Beard Care. Order our scented beard oils and beard balms to help you maintain and grow the perfect beard. Order today. Try our men's care products like the full body exfoliating cleansing bars, body wash, smooth stash, and more. Log on to our website or download our app to place your orders. Rugged Evolution Beard Care. We're your luxury but affordable men's care line. And remember,
rugged is the new smooth.
Welcome back, my friends. Welcome back to the Arrington Gavin Show. As always, I'm your host, your friend, your homie, Arrington Gavin, coming to you with another great episode. Before I move forward, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at the Arrington Gavin Show, Instagram, Blue Sky, X, as well as Substack. Substack is like the platform where I always say it's like my open diary. If I love to talk and sometimes I need to take a breather, well, my fingers start moving and I'm like, and I just start typing it away what I want to talk about. So that's the kind of content that's on Substack, as well as, like I said, the other platforms, Instagram, Blue Sky, X. So many platforms to really choose from, but I would prefer, you know, if you just follow at least one of them. There's so many, at least follow one of them. I truly appreciate that. And also our Patreon page, as I mentioned in past shows, we have a Patreon page where we have exclusive content there. Obviously, there's stuff I can't share all the time on air on the radio. So we have some exclusive content, bonus clips and footage, and great content on that platform there. So you can follow the Arrington Gavin Show on Patreon. Okay, enough with that spiel. Let me go ahead and get it going with our fun fact of the day before I introduce our amazing guests. Our quick fun fact of the day, a tradition we love to do here on the program. Did you guys know in 2021, the world's smallest reptile was discovered? Yeah. And you're probably wondering, well, Arrington, what reptile are we talking about? Which one is it? This one, is it that one? So I have the information right here. So the smallest reptile currently is the chameleon called Brookshia Nana, I believe, or Nana. Brookshia Nana. It is only about 13.5 millimeters in body length, not including the tail, as small as a sunflower seed. Could you imagine smaller than a sunflower seed? And that's a reptile. Interesting. So look, there's your fun fact. You know, I don't go into too much details with the fun facts. Sometimes I have some random ones where you're like, Arrington, where the hell did you get that from? Look, hey, it's a fun fact. I'm just here to help you start a conversation or just to have a fun fact, in your under your sleeve. So it's always good to have that on standby. All right, my friends. As I mentioned earlier, the importance of local government. I talk about it here. I preach it on this program many of times. I've been honored to have a lot of our local elected officials. As you know, for our listeners out there, I'm a resident of the city of Chesapeake in the Hampton Roads, Virginia area. So I've been honored to have folks representing Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Portsmouth. Have I had Suffolk? I don't think I've had Suffolk. I had Newport News. I haven't had Suffolk yet, but we've had folks representing their local areas for a while, and we've had great conversation because I always want to, we like to have fun on this show, but entertained but also informed. I feel as though we lack information now, especially for young people, because either we have the short time span of like, okay, everything needs to be in a 30-second video and that's all my information I want to. No, we want to, we want to introduce you things that you should be aware of, because the older you get, the more knowledge is better to have. The more you know, the more you grow. And so I'm an advocate about informing you guys on local government. And today I'm very honored and thrilled to have a member of the city of Chesapeake City Council, Councilwoman Debbie Ritter. And before I introduce her, I just want to give a little quick background, if she doesn't mind. I see her waiting backstage patiently. I thank you for that. I want to introduce. I want to give you a little background on her. Elected in City Council in May of 1998, reelected in May of 2002. Elected again in May of 2008, has been reelected since, and she recently just won a reelection recently. And so again, the people have spoken. The people love her. So she keeps getting reelected. I'm like, hey, the people have spoken. So obviously she is doing something great for the residents here in Chesapeake. She a graduate of University of Connecticut. She serves on multiple boards, a member of multiple groups. I mean, I'm looking at the list. The list goes on and on and on. I wish I could read all, but let me tell you something. It's a lot. It's a lot right there, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our special guest, the one and only City Councilwoman Debbie Ritter. How you doing, my friend?
I'm fine, Arrington. How are you today?
I am doing great. As I mentioned earlier, it's an honor to have you on. For those who know you, for those who don't know you, I'm excited so they can get to know you. Especially those that are in the area of Chesapeake, because I've mentioned about informing folks. There's people that are not familiar who serves on their local government or in their local cities, and that's like, okay, that's not a good thing, because a lot of folks are like, oh, we have a city website. What? We have all we have all of this information under our in our vicinity, in our hands. So again, I thank you for coming here on the program.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be asked. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's get it going with are you originally is your home turf originally from Chesapeake? Are you originally from the Hampton Roads area, or?
No, I'm from a Navy family.
Okay.
I was born in Newport, Rhode Island. My father was a student at the Naval War College, and we moved around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When for my high school years, we went to Connecticut to my dad was at the submarine base, but unfortunately died on active duty up there. We were all in high school. So my mother stayed there until we finished school, and all of us went to college. So really didn't grow up anywhere. And then I met my husband in college, never thinking he would have his first career in the Navy, but that's what brought us here when he got orders to a nuclear cruiser. So we've been here ever since.
Wow. I always have to ask for folks who are elected officials or at least running for local office. Was this something that was always instilled in you, like since the beginning? Did you ever say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna work hard, graduate, and I'm gonna be an elected official. I'm gonna enter in the field of politics in a sense.
No. I, like so many other people, I started out with the neighborhood issue. You can imagine, with a husband who deployed all the time. I was real busy raising the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little bit of substitute teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my girls are grown now, so I don't mind saying I really did that to find out who they were talking about when they came home from school. I was one of those parents. So I had no thought at all about ever having this kind of involvement.
Mm-hmm.
And I got involved in a very substantial neighborhood issue.
Mm-hmm.
And we were successful getting it turned down at city council.
Mm.
And I got to know a few people and was appointed to the planning commission, which I truly enjoyed. It was a whole learning experience for me. But because I was a pretty persistent
Mm-hmm.
voice for slowing the pace of development,
Mm-hmm.
there was a big lobby not to have me reappointed. And I did not get reappointed. Had I been, I would have done my 8 years and moved on.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, to be honest, I had a temper tantrum
Mm-hmm.
and decided to run for city council as an independent,
Mm-hmm.
and was probably the most surprised person in Chesapeake when I won. So, um, I really did, this was never a goal for
Mm-hmm.
me. But here I am.
Wow. Wow. And we're okay. So we're in. It's funny how that story comes because you 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 sought out an issue. You saw an issue that needed to be dealt with, and you said, "Well, look, if no one's gonna do it, I'll step into the lion's den because something needs to be done." And that has since then extended a career in continuing that, in that mission. And I mean, that is awesome because I always say a lot here on the show. It's easy to complain. Us regular, us non, elected officials. It's easy to complain, but okay, what are you gonna do about it? There's a late great one of a radio host who I'm a huge fan of. He's deceased now. His name is Joe Madison. They called him the Black Eagle, and he was very unfiltered. But he always, when he would get call-ins and people would fuss about this and that and that and this, he would say, "Okay, what are you gonna do about it?" And if it wasn't an answer, he's like, "All right, hang up. Next caller, next call." Like, I mean, it's really felt like that. So you saw that issue, you dealt with that issue, and now that has been years of service for the local area. um
Well, I've got to be honest here.
mhm,
And it's a lesson I took away from that experience.
mhm,
It's never one person.
mm,
We had a whole collaboration of 2 or 3 different neighborhoods out here until, well, I know you grew up in Ravenna.
mhm, mhm.
It wasn't there then. So, yeah, I realized that it's very powerful to be part of a group moving in the same direction.
Mhm,
So, I certainly didn't do that by myself,
mhm.
but it did give me a little bit of a window into working with local government.
Got you. When you first mentioned it to your, because I know the first person you probably mentioned or what talked to was your husband when you said, "Hey, look, I think I'm gonna run. I want to run for for local." What was the how did the conversation go? What was his thought process with
Well,
that?
actually, it was exactly the other way around. He was so tired of hearing me complain and whine that he told me to either run for council or just stop talking, which, made a lot of sense.
Mhm, mhm.
I have a great family. They keep me quite grounded. So, it wasn't me talking him into it. It was him saying, either do it or stop talking about it. So,
Yeah,
and
see,
he's been very supportive.
that is awesome. Yeah, if I tell my wife to stop talking about it, I'll probably get slapped or something. She's like, "Oh no, you gotta listen to me vent right now." Like, it's the other way around for her.
Well, he was right. It was, you have to make a decision. You can't
Mm,
just go on whining forever.
mm. Very true, very true. Well, with that being said, when you first served, how was the first term? How was your first year when you first was elected in the council?
It's really interesting. Having the term on the planning commission
Mhm,
gave me a lot of background into several different things.
mhm,
But also there were many things I didn't know about. So I really spent a lot of time trying to learn. I'm
mhm,
still doing that. I still learn something every month.
mhm,
Um, but that was the most fun, was going a little bit more in depth. I was pretty up to date on planning things.
mhm.
But the budget, that was a whole new, I mean, you could have majored in budget, and it took me about 3 years to really understand how
Mhm,
our budget worked. And so I think I came probably as well prepared as anybody, but still had a lot to learn, still do.
Wow, wow. Um, if you can remember during those periods when you first were running, what was the takeaways from say your first campaign experience that you say, okay, look, this was a lesson learned that I will never do again if I, if I run for reelection, or this is something I will always, I mean, not trying to give off your secrets, but what were some of the takeaways through that process?
Well, if I can tell you, the most important thing was not my first election. That really was kind of a blur for
Mm-hmm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
especially never anticipating winning.
Mm-hmm.
But the strongest lesson I learned was losing reelection in 2006.
Mm.
So it was by 40 some votes.
Wow. Wow.
So I went home and I tried to figure out what had I done wrong. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people who lose elections look for a scapegoat.
Mm.
This beat me, that beat me. The issue of the day was the increasing cost of home assessments.
Mm.
And it was very impactful to
Mm-hmm.
people. So I went home and figured out where had I lost touch. And it took a lot for me to decide to try to run again in 2008. I was finding out I was really enjoying my life. And I was enjoying when I picked up the newspaper, I wasn't part of that negative story. But I was so encouraged by others to
Mm.
run, but I made a commitment to myself, which was do not lose yourself in that building again.
Mm.
Never say people won't understand. It's our job to present things in an understandable manner. It's our job to include people in the city.
Mm-hmm.
People should not expect to have to make every small piece of knowledge that we have,
Mm-hmm.
but we should be able to explain in a way, like get rid of acronyms.
Mm-hmm.
People hate acronyms. I hate them. Um, be able to communicate well and be able to say yes and no and back yourself up, but don't get lost in the bureaucracy of government.
Mm-hmm.
Always remember why you're there and who you represent. So that was the biggest lesson in all these years. But that had to be, there was a lot of self-examination.
Wow. Wow.
And did I really want to come back again?
Wow. That's really important what you're saying, Councilwoman, because when it comes to remembering why you're here in the first place, because I think, and I'm speaking now as just from the, from the people, from the residents, a lot of voters out there, they feel mistreated, they feel like,
Mm.
politicians can't be trusted. It's like, okay, you give us this whole selling pitch to us during campaign season, then once you're in office, you're focused on what will benefit yourself, and that's not all folks, that's not all people that serve, but that's what people continue to pour in and listen to outside noise and say this is what they're doing because it hurts, where you might have somebody that will either get in trouble with something, or just throughout the terms it's like, okay, you said you were going to do this, this cycle ago, and it never happened. And voters feel uh that, hey, look, it's what's the point. And I think sometimes that affects voting turnout during elections, because I've noticed
Mm.
from a few elections that numbers kind of fluctuate. I think the most recent one was actually maybe an increase. I could be wrong. I know you can see the numbers firsthand, but I think it was a larger number of voters that came out this past election cycle. Um, but I'm glad you said that, as far as a lot of, just the self-evaluation, knowing why I'm here, what's the real mission, and not focus on that. I'm very glad you brought that up.
Well, it's important,
Hmm.
which is why I answer emails, I return phone calls. I go to different events. I go myself to the grocery store, and I do a lot of listening.
Mm,
And I think people appreciate that. They appreciate they can get in touch with me.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I think they appreciate that I'm fairly forthright.
Mm, that is great.
So, um, at least I hope so. I think I've retained their confidence all these years, so I
That
hope
is
that's why.
that is really good. That is really good. Yes, again, I commend a lot of folks, like yourself that run or that is serving, because during the campaign process, I've always been supportive of friends that serve in office. I had one of your fellow colleagues, Councilman, newly elected Councilman Les Smith Jr. He's a
Mhm,
dear friend of mine. I worked with him during just helping out door knocking. That was the first time I've ever done that. Most likely will be my last, because there was some interaction with some mean dogs. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm like, okay, you're the one running. I'm not. I'm just here supporting. But it was a learning experience, though, Councilwoman, because I'm a person where I wouldn't mind working behind the scenes when it comes to that, just
mhm.
because I I'm a small business owner. I have a nonprofit. I'm a giver in a sense, just because of, that's my passion. And when I see folks in need, I want to give. And so I'm like, okay, this is important to learn. And I do enjoy politics too. But just I only was door knocking in one neighborhood. I'm like, you guys been doing this since how many months? Like, and it was hot, and I'm like, wow, it was just, and that was just phone calls. It's a lot of work. It is
It
a lot
is
of
a lot
work.
of work, but it's rewarding.
Mm,
And again, if you listen, you can pull out issues that are important to people across the city.
hmm
They always tend to be the same, and people are concerned, as they should be, with their everyday lives.
hmm
And that's something we should never lose sight of, that it's those issues that are of the biggest impact to our people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Councilwoman, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. I'm having so much fun with you having this conversation. I hope the listeners and the viewers out there are enjoying just as much as I am. Look, I am your host, Arrington Gavin, and I'm joining with Chesapeake City Councilwoman Debbie Ritter. So look, don't go anywhere. We have a lot more great conversation with the Councilwoman. You are tuning into the Arrington Gavin Show. We'll be right back after this commercial break. All right, my friends, welcome back to the Arrington Gavin Show. I'm your host, Arrington Gavin. Joining me is Chesapeake City Councilwoman Debbie Ritter. Councilwoman, I want to more questions about yourself that I would love to ask, and then later on, I want to get into some of the priorities and goals for City of Chesapeake. You have, again, first elected in '98. You had a period where you said you lost a re-election in '06, but you came back in 2008, has been in office since. For one, well, okay, it's kind of two questions I want to ask. First question is, did you ever think to run for higher office? Is the first question I will ask. Was there ever a thought process that you
No,
wanted to say, okay, look, that you're shaking the head like absolutely.
no. I love local government. I don't know that there's anywhere we can make a bigger difference for people than at the local level. So no, I didn't have aspirations to be on the city council, much less at any higher level. No.
Have you ever been approached to say, hey, look, you're doing so good here. Why don't you try and serve on a state level a little higher? Have you ever been approached in the past?
Yes. Quick
Wow.
no.
But quick, no. Hey, I love the honesty. I love the honesty. My next question was going to be, when when will you ever say, okay, look, I think I've done a lot for the city. I think it's now time for me to kick back, enjoy some good TV shows, binge watch some good TV shows, enjoy myself with my family. When have that ever crossed your mind? Is that gonna will it ever
Every
happen?
election cycle. I take stock of two things.
Hmm.
The first is, do I have anything more to offer
Hmm.
to people
Hmm.
in the city? And second is, do I think they're tired of me? Do I think I've worn out my welcome?
Hmm.
And I really look at that. I talk to friends. I have friends talk to their friends who don't know me and kind of try to gauge if there's still a reason for me to be there.
Hmm.
And I do that every single election cycle, about a year out.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so cool. I remember it was actually my first time ever attending a swearing in I think recently cuz I was invited when Les had got
Uh-huh.
elected. And one thing I've noticed is the camaraderie, the communication amongst city council and just in people in the room. We come from all sides of the aisle, but it was a great time to just like celebrate everyone, celebrate everybody, and to just again congratulate those who are new to council, congratulate those who have won a re-election. And this was a really really big race, councilman, because it was three seats that was up for grabs. I think a total of 9 candidates, if I'm not mistaken. It was a very 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 tough race. You came in first. I think when I saw the numbers, you were first. I believe it was Les second, and then Councilwoman Pat King at
Yes.
third. When you saw those numbers, I mean, how does that make you feel? I mean, just again, this wasn't an easy race. You had a lot of great candidates involved in that race. How did that make you feel? Seeing, well, they want me back, so this is how was the feeling?
Well, it was terrific. There are two sides of a campaign.
Hmm.
There's an intellectual side and there's an emotional side,
Hmm.
and never the twain shall meet. So, um, this isn't my first time being the highest vote getter.
Hmm.
I was very thankful, and I realize it's a huge responsibility
Hmm.
because people have put their faith in you and they expect certain things from me, and I intend to continue to give them those.
That is great. That is great. Well, I would say council has a great line of leaders after looking at the swearing. I'm like, okay, this is one great in diversity of opinions and again sides and views. And
Yeah.
I think that's really what the city needs. First question I would like to ask is, what are some of your priorities that you have always pushed to advocate for since serving in office?
The first is always the safety of the public,
Mhm.
safe streets, to make sure that we can answer those 911 calls, to make sure people feel safe in the
Mhm.
city and in their schools and in their neighborhoods. And anymore, that's taking a really front row seat for most everyone. Coming in a close second is education, to make sure we do what we can. And for the council, it's simply funding
Mm.
to make sure these children are prepared for entering a workforce no matter what pathway they take. And then there's that great big quality of life issue where everything else gets into.
Mhm.
So, in that vein, I would say my biggest focus is the preservation of open space and agriculture in the city.
Okay.
That's been that way since 1994 when I went on the planning commission.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
believe that growth has its place in this city, but only if and when you can address the impacts from that growth. And that's somewhere I think the city can improve.
Got you. Got you. So And I'm gonna make sure I understand, because I could be a little slow sometimes. So let me try and understand
You're
that
not
last one.
slow. Don't try to kid me.
So when it comes to saying more, okay, cutting down trees, adding more buildings and structures, your goal is to keep more keep more nature still in existence rather than continue making it in so many. Am I making sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think people love the open space.
Mm-hmm.
I think agriculture is a really important industry,
Absolutely.
and it's hard to keep farmers farming. So,
Mm,
what can we do to help support them? Because
absolutely.
it's always been an important industry in the city. Um, and, balance that with the rights of property owners.
Mm.
And so it's never an easy path,
I,
but it's something I care very deeply about, mostly because our schools are overcrowded, our first responders are stressed. It's hard to get trash picked up. We had to cancel recycling,
yeah.
which was a popular program. So I hope that we will find a better balance. I can say the past couple councils have really been very development oriented.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
keep I'm still voting the same way I always have.
No, I mean, I agree with you as far as on that balance, because for one, me being a Chesapeake kid, like I always say, I'm city at heart, because my family, all my family on my mother's side, they're from the city, they're from New York. So I'm a city kid. I'm a city kid at heart, but raised really born in Chesapeake. So I do love, the space, the privacy, the open land, as you mentioned about the farmers. Um, I mean, there's I think, is it called Bergies off of
Yes.
I mean, it's just like, come on. I mean, when it's time for, for strawberry picking, things that was like when I was a little kid, going there or grabbing a pie or dessert. Like, it's just, that stuff is great to have it. Um, but you make a great argument with the, schools being overcrowded, and also too, uh I'm just thinking this off the top of my dome, because I was, when I was driving to my office, homeless, affordable housing.
Mhm.
Can we do we have the space to house, or programs to house some of those folks that are, looking for, shelters, things of that nature. And I know we do have a lot of land. By the way, for the listeners out there, Chesapeake is actually the second largest population wise city in the state of Virginia. I think second behind Virginia Beach, I
Virginia
believe.
Beach.
Virginia Beach. And so, yes, it's around, I'm gonna say 200, over 260,000, maybe
We're right about 260.
right about 260,000. So it is a pretty big city in the area. So I totally understand how that could be a difficult balance to try and work on, because you do have the, property owners that saying, hey, look, this is my land, I'm not giving it up. And then you're like, well, look, we have, you know projects that we would like to bring here that can help bring more jobs or housing. It's hard. It's a hard process. I can understand that, and that's just one of the little things that you have to deal with on council.
Right, and, even more than schools today, we hear about traffic.
Yeah, I mean, traffic is tough, but you know what's funny? I don't think the traffic is as bad. And that's just in my opinion. I
Well,
don't think
that's
the
because
traffic
you
is
go to Manhattan.
very, very true. Very true.
No, but I mean, people here, it's more congested than it ever has been.
Okay,
An accident anywhere just backs up everything.
very true.
Um, we've lived in the DC area. I have children that have lived in Manhattan and DC,
Hmm.
so I get it.
Hmm.
But again, it's not comparing us to somebody.
Hmm.
It's what that group of citizens think. Have we fallen down on our responsibility? That I think that's the key. That's the question we have to ask ourselves. Not how we feel, how do our constituents feel?
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to move on to the education piece, because you said you are, an advocate for education. I myself, same. Our nonprofit that we do, we started off doing back to school giveaways backpack giveaways where we have backpacks filled with school supplies. We've given out to I thought it was 1,500 families. I just found out today it was actually around 3,000 families. And
Wow.
we want to keep on that narrative and just helping those students in lower income communities and just underprivileged. And education is big for me because growing up, I still have it from time to time, but I had a learning disability, and so I had I was learning information different from my classmates. So from there, I had a great support system. I had a great parents. I had a great uh, teachers and counselors and things like that. So I was fortunate to continue to work my way up, and I always want to share that story. But when it comes to education, I know we have mental health that is a very big in education right now. Well, just in the school system, not education, but just in the school system. You mentioned overcrowding. What are some issues that you see when it's working with education, councilwoman, that that council comes across as like, wow, we got to fix this. We got to continue to either push this, because really Chesapeake schools are good in comparison to the 7 cities of Hampton Roads.
Our schools have done a great job. Obviously, you're a product. My own children are products.
Hmm.
But the role of the council is really only funding. So we have very little sway or influence on policies.
I got you.
However, I think everybody is concerned about the whether or not public education is meeting the needs of the kids.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't think we fit into this paradigm, but I'll tell you, it's very sobering to look at the new national reports
Mm,
that are saying only 30% of students in the fourth and eighth grade read to the right level
mm,
or are prepared. When I went to college, there was no such thing as a remedial class.
mm.
Of course, when I went to college, women couldn't go to a lot of colleges. Um, Harvard, Yale, MIT, the
Hmm.
service
The Ivy
academies,
League schools.
yeah, couldn't go there.
Wow.
But, the needs of education have changed. The pandemic wreaked havoc on families.
Hmm.
And just trying to make up that learning loss, and even more than learning loss, the loss of social growth.
Mm,
So they really have their hands full. The teachers and staffs, we're seeing such an uptick in the needs of mental health. And that starts at a very young age.
yeah.
Look at the tragedy yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, what drives that? What drove that mother to be so desperate and hopeless?
Yeah, and for the listener, I didn't mean to cut you off, Councilman. With what Councilman Ritter's bringing up, y'all, there was a story that happened in the city of Chesapeake where a mother had well what I'm reading, the report was there were 3 minors that was found dead, as well as a self-inflicted gunshot wound of the mother. And again, like we're talking about mental health. It's just where did that come from, the drive to, if she to take out your own children. I mean, it's a scary world we do live in, Councilwoman. As far
And
as
then there's
Mhm.
also, I don't mean to
Oh,
interrupt,
no, no, no.
but I have to say this. Imagine the reaction of our police officers, our SWAT team,
Hmm.
and the first responders.
That's a lot that they have to
Right.
bring in. Yep.
They had to break into
Hmm.
what was a barricade situation and find that. And they're tough men and women,
Absolutely.
and they're used to seeing a lot, but that has to have made a terrible impact on them.
Hmm.
So it's not just those who may suffer from mental health issues, but it's the people who respond to those. Imagine being a city employee and trying to deal with patient after patient with mental. It's a very stressful time for people, which is why I think government needs to back off and not be, not tell everyone what to do, but help where we can.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're about less than 15 minutes left, guys, into the show, and I really want to.
I know you want to hit the more controversial issues, so go ahead.
That's right. That's right. Well, I remember during the campaign season, I was at a forum that was held. I'm forgetting where, at Stonebridge, maybe. I think that
Yes,
was
Stonebridge School in West
Stonebridge School.
Virginia.
And so they had brought up this single member voting, the district system. So guys, in the 757, I want to say there's at least 3 cities that have some form of like a district award system. Virginia Beach has a district system. Norfolk has a ward system, and I believe Suffolk has similar like that, like where
Uh-huh.
a member of council represents a specific district. The cities that I know is that doesn't: Chesapeake, Hampton, and I believe Newport News. Now, Councilwoman, you were
And
on you
Portsmouth.
and Portsmouth. Thank you, and Portsmouth. Now, Councilwoman, you were, I would say, not on the side of having a single member voting system. There were some folks that were for it. You've had voters and residents that pretty balanced. I don't know if more than the other. I can't speak for everybody. I would say I see the benefit of having it. I want to get your take on why not for the single member or district system.
Well, same reason I gave as at the forum. Uh, First of all, I think that it's a blessing for people in the city to have 9 representatives that are
Hmm.
responsible to them.
Hmm.
Going down to 2 disenfranchises people.
Hmm.
That would mean if you your parents live still here, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
In what would be my district. But if you didn't live here, I would have no reason to be responsible to you.
Hmm.
So now, if I were selfish, I could spend very little money in the area which I live and probably never ever even be considered to lose an election.
Hmm.
But now I can represent people. I'm as responsible to someone in Western Branch as I am to my next door neighbor.
Hmm.
I think that makes for better government. I also think it eliminates the backroom deal.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, I need this in my district, so I'll give you this if you give me that. I don't like that
Hmm.
at all. And I think if we're mindful of the whole city, then we're going to be distributing our ability to do projects and to give service everywhere in the city.
Hmm.
So that's how I feel about it personally. I would
Yeah,
not.
and I don't disagree with what you have said, because again, I'm 50-50 with it. It You make a great point as far as having the majority of representation. So if an issue does occur in my area, I have 9 people I can contact instead of 1. Now, some voters will say I rather have that one person that I can always keep accountable, especially when it comes to, for one, reelection. 2, when you have, I don't know, if you have a choice of 9, it's like, okay, well, this person might not be available, then boom, swing over to this one. Voters nowadays are impatient people, right?
Yes.
They're very impatient. And so I think that's one thing. And then also, if I put myself in a council member's seat, then hey, I have a job to do to take care of 260,000 folks. Hey, it might be a little easier to take care of 35,000, so I can really, you know what I mean? And then a third thing I want to mention, Councilwoman, is there's some folks in certain parts of Chesapeake that will feel like, hey, look, no one brings attention to our area. So, and I think that's why for me, the single member, it does make sense. And now you make a perfect point. I don't disagree with your points, but I think that's when you have kind of like the back and forth issue as far as, okay, this is why it's, working. I know they bring up Virginia Beach a lot because, for one, because of the district system, you had a diverse group of people have their direct council member that they can focus on, even though during campaign season, I mean, the single members will still campaign in majority of the districts, but they do enjoy having that single member voting so they can keep that that member accountable.
I think there's a legitimate difference of opinion on
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean, I can see the back and forth of it,
Mm-hmm.
but I can also see from 25 years of experience, I wish I could, if I had 10 cents or a nickel for every email I get that say, thank you for responding. You're the only council member I heard from.
Mm-hmm.
So, I tell people this all the time. We were not just pulled out of a bird's nest
Mm-hmm.
to do this job and kicking and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
We work hard to get these seats.
Mm-hmm.
You need to accept that responsibility, and you need to be in every area of the city. You need to be there if somebody calls you. I don't care where it is, but I can probably tell you without a GPS where most things are in the city.
Mm-hmm.
But again, and I'm not being critical of anyone else, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a full-time job. So I've been able to make this my job, and I can translate for people should they ask. But it's just, there are good arguments on both sides, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if we broke into districts, I'd 70% of my calls would still be people in other areas of the city. And
And
they no longer vote for me.
yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, that is why people continue to. That is why she's in office. I mean, really, because that's passion, and that's what voters want to hear. Is that, look, I have so many emails that say thank you, thank you, thank you. When, like, that is sometimes looked upon as foreign in today's day and age when it comes to the relationship between community and council and your local elected official. So I think that is awesome. I'm looking at my time. I would love to ask, when it comes to entertainment in the city of Chesapeake. Now, as a kid, I was always hanging out with friends either in Virginia Beach or go to Norfolk. Really didn't have we had movie theaters, obviously, but we really didn't have anything of our own to say, look, Chesapeake has a great entertainment venue or this and that and the other. Now, recently, the Regal movie theater had closed down after a long time. I think it was opened in like 95 or 96.
Mhm.
That was a part of my childhood. And also later in this month, the Greenbrier Mall will be auctioned off. So we don't know where that will go. Has there been any discussion or any thought process of potentially bringing in some form of an entertainment venue or convocation center maybe to the city of Chesapeake? Because I know for high school graduates out in Chesapeake, we have the graduations in Norfolk. So has there ever been any discussions in council or anything you can mention to us?
Well, I think so. People have been asking for years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always a question of priorities, and those would be terrific to
Mm-hmm.
have, particularly the entertainment, something
Mm-hmm.
that would draw youth,
Yeah.
give them something to do. But on the other side, we invest very heavily in our schools. Some of the surrounding, now I just take Virginia Beach out of every single discussion
Mm-hmm.
because of the tremendous tourism revenue.
Yeah.
No other city has that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at Norfolk, for example, they haven't invested as heavily in their schools as we have.
Mm-hmm.
So they have priorities.
Mm-hmm.
We just have a higher priority than that. So it's on the radar if we can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
But safety and education are always at the top of our list in Chesapeake.
Great answer. Not the one I wanted to hit. No, I'm joking. I'm
I'm
joking. I'm joking.
sorry.
I'm joking.
And we're a very
Ah.
sports-minded family.
Mhm.
And I know there are discussions going on, and if it's something that makes sense and we can afford,
Mhm. Mhm.
I'd be happy to support it, but it's gotta meet those 2. I'm a very strongly conservative when it comes to fiscally
Mhm.
being
Mhm.
responsible, 'cause we sit
Oh,
down
same, same.
like everybody, and we can't overextend, and we can't have a nice to have
Mm,
when we have a critical to have list.
I love
So,
that. I love that response. Mhm.
it's kind of like it's what we do in our personal life. It's no different, it's just a bigger scale.
Oh, I hear you. I'm not going to mention any cities, but I know, there's some cities or a city in in the Hampton Roads area that tends to do a lot of spending, but the projects are never completed. So I will say that's something that to me is a disservice to voters and residents. They're like, okay, this is when is this ever going to be finished? When is this going to be finished? When is
You
that going to be
raised
finished?
that issue about campaign promises,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
and, you've got to try. At least let people know you're trying to do that.
Mhm.
So, I don't make too many promises about what's gonna happen because it's so dependent on revenues.
Absolutely. No, but that's great information, Councilwoman. I'm still gonna be praying and I'll be that one person in the tent outside of council. Any luck yet? No, no. But no, because
Well, don't pray outside, come in and speak to us. Every
we'll do.
voice is valued, and that's why we had that referendum on recycling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We heard so much from both sides. That was the best way to find out how the majority of people felt, and were they willing to pay a fee, and they were pretty resounding in their answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
And that's great. That's really good.
I was disappointed. I'd like to see curbside recycling come back,
Mm-hmm.
but is that something that, obviously people are not gonna accept paying a fee for it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand. Understand. Councilwoman, please don't be a stranger to the show. I've had such an awesome time. I feel like I can talk to you for
Me
more
too.
hours. Look, do me a favor. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna just chat a little bit backstage just for a few minutes if that's okay. But I want to thank you so much for taking the time out your schedule to have this conversation here on the show. As I mentioned before, please don't be a stranger when there's issues happening or anything you want to speak about that could impact Chesapeake and just be impacting just all local cities in the United States. Please come back to the show, share it here. You always have a opportunity.
Thank you, and I hope you're not sorry you told me that.
I am definitely not sorry. I'm not sorry at all. Well, look, don't go anywhere, my friend. We're gonna
Okay.
just chop it just a little bit. But my friends, I hope you all enjoyed this great conversation I had with Chesapeake City Councilwoman Debbie Ritter. Again, breath of fresh air, knowledge. We spoke on issues that we are passionate about. We spoke on issues that hey, we didn't see eye to eye, but at the end of the day, look, our outcome, our end goal is to see the improvement and the great stuff with the city of Chesapeake, and hopefully this can be pushed to other cities as well. So my friends, continue to tune to the Arrington Gavin Show 5 days a week, Monday through Fridays, available on all digital and streaming platforms. Look, as always, continue to support, follow us on all of our social media platforms. We are the show where we just kick back and have a great conversation. Peace and blessings, everybody. I will talk to you soon, my friends. All right, I'm out.